Give me a thumbs up. Okay. Call to order this meeting of the Village of Ashcroft for Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. Mayor and Council wish to acknowledge that the meeting today is held within the traditional territory. Just like to also note the passing of former BC Premier John Horgan. Whether you agreed with his politics and his party or not, there seems to be consensus across the board, in my view rightly, that he was a decent man who had the best interests of British Columbians at heart. And a lot of people are mourning his passing at the far too young age of 65. Are there any additions to deletions from the agenda?
No, I have nothing.
All right. We have the minutes of the regular meeting held on October 28th. Councillor Davenport.
Move that the minutes of the regular meeting of Council held Monday, October 28th, 2024 be adopted as presented.
Thank you kindly. Council Director.
Wrong
Two
meeting.
days of meetings, I'm sorry. Councillor Lambert seconded that. Are there any errors or omissions? On the question, all those in favor? None opposed, that's carried. Delegations, we have Mohammed Hassani, Quality Manager of Dawson Road Maintenance, with his annual State of the Roads address. Semi-annual State of the Roads address. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, folks. This is Mohammed. I'm
Quality Manager in the 16 area that is in office.
He is gonna do this one day.
All right.
Yeah, so just our annual information session, just for everybody. The Ashcroft area, we are proud to say that we are only 2 people short this year. That is incredible, considering the lack of employees that we've had over the few years. So I think with all the projects shutting down throughout the province there, with just the pipeline shutting down and stuff, we've managed to wrangle some more folks, so that's good. All our equipment's in order, and we're ready for the first blast here, which, like we were saying, should be happening tonight up on Highland Valley. So we've got all our brine out there. We've got that all brined up. Been going around here the last few weeks, but really good for keeping down that morning frost. So yeah, is there any questions from any of you?
So how often, I mean, I know obviously it's dependent on the temperature and the snowfall that's anticipated. If we don't say have any snowfall anticipated for the next couple of weeks, how often do you go out and brine the roads around here where we're not getting that low level snow?
If it's dry, it'll last a few days. It'll hold that morning frost out for a few days.
Okay.
But if we get any sort of precipitation, it dilutes it enough that once it dries out again, we have to go out and put it out. So typically every 2 to 3 days we're out there brining. So yeah, the lower levels, Spence's Bridge, we haven't really needed to put it down there yet. The morning, it's, you know, when that sun comes up, the highway turns white on you, frosts up on. But sure, the road temperature typically doesn't get as low down here as it does, say, in Clinton. Clinton, we're -6. That's about as cold as it's going to be when we put it out. Right. And then, of course, anything past -9, the salt just kind of doesn't work anyway. So any temperatures past -9, we're going to treat it with sand, right? We're going to plow it and sand it, and then once those temperatures come up, we'll salt it and get it burnt off. So, yeah.
Do you have any questions? Director Benowitz?
Well, several years ago, you used to have meetings with all the local groups, RCMP and stuff like that. You just got away from that.
Yeah, well, the pandemic was the start of us getting away from that, and then of course David Rhodes, he kind of championed all of this, right? So he moved on to SA-17, and he actually just retired there a couple months ago. So yes, we're going to get back into it. That's why I'm bringing Mohammed around with me here, so he can kind of learn the ropes, and that is the plan. We did sit down with the Ashcroft Clinton RCMP just over a Teams meeting here a couple weeks ago, just to discuss mostly the Big Bar Ferry, but just response times and stuff like that.
The number that people can phone, like if they're out on the roads and they see something.
Absolutely, our 1-800 number is out, and it's on those cards as well. So yeah, absolutely. Or they can go on our website as well and see something that needs to be reported.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. 1-800-842-4122.
You got it. That's the one.
That's the one, the magic number.
The magic number.
And anything new this year? Anything?
No, not too much. Just same old. Just road maintenance. Just hurry up and wait kind of thing, right? But no, we're all geared up. We just went through our winter operations training here last week, so all our new folks are trained up, and our seasoned folks have got a refresher, and we're ready to hit it hard.
And I think last year you said you'd switch the times a little bit to make it more appealing. Is that?
It worked.
Yeah.
Like if our day shift starting at 5 a.m., that made a huge difference. Being out on the highway before those school buses are out there,
Yeah.
or even the flow of traffic, or knowledge and a lot of relationships down here, and that's really helped out. She's got a lot of people that she knows work here, and that's really helped out. She's got a lot of people that she knows works up at Highland Valley, so she's getting just input. It's us. But mostly, I mean, ultimately, the decisions left up to the Ministry of Transportation, and they're pretty fickle with their cameras these days. But that one especially is really helpful. The one on Big Bar is really helpful too. As far as just seeing what it's like out there, I recommend. Just putting a link on your phone, and it just comes up right away. So, but yeah, it would be probably a little pressure from council camera up here and there.
I mean, do you see anywhere that you think there should be?
I would love to see one down in the Spence's Bridge area. South would be. We north we have them at Big Bar, we have them at Bagby, so you can pretty much plan your route north, but it's actually southbound that would be nice to see.
Because I know there's one at the junction of the highways in Cache Creek. Where's the next one southbound? I know there's also one junction of the highways in Cache Creek. Where's the next one southbound? I know there's also one. Wasn't one just installed? One was put in the canyon somewhere last year.
If it's out of 16, I'm not too sure where it would be. I would assume probably maybe around Jackass Mountain.
I think it was somewhere along. So there's nothing between Spence's Bridge and.
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Because I think that one in the canyon that they just opened started here. I think that is the next closest one to us going south.
Yeah, exactly. So having one in the middle like that Spence's Bridge area would be, even maybe somewhere on Highway 8 even. Right, if they don't want to put another one on the main route, at least then you know what the weather was like down that way, right?
Yeah, good thought.
Yeah.
Okay, and also on the one last question about the brining, we still don't have a brining facility, or the container down here. Is it in Clinton?
Yes, that's correct. They have their own brine truck down here, so they
Right.
go up and fill up in Clinton, but it's just the logistics to put one down here is just too tough. Being above the river and beside the railway, it's just not a good spot to have a brine tank. I to be honest with you, I don't think the environment would ever approve it. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Well,
Okay.
thanks very much.
You're very welcome.
All
Please
right.
feel free to reach out anytime.
Will
Thank
do.
you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night. All right, public input. It's your time to shine, Kent. You're the only one here.
Regarding this, or
Anything.
On the agenda.
Anything on the agenda. So it could be about this.
so they
or-
were, but they left. To be a little predatory the way they entered it out like this. So that was an issue in the last kind of committee of the whole where you asked for public input as well.
Okay.
Thank you for worship, but they need to stay until we're done asking the questions and or the public.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. We move on to bylaws policies. We have none. We move on to bylaws policies. We have none. We have CFO.
Preliminary budget discussions. How
We
we
have
have,
one no money and he's gonna say no.
preliminary budget discussions. How
We
we
have
have,
one no money and he's gonna say no to everything.
Pretty,
No to everything.
pretty much. Thank you. I can be done now. That was quick.
I've just
We
given
can
the
go home
Coles
now.
Notes-
I thought you said you weren't talking.
the Coles Notes version of
Okay.
what we're about to hear.
So what I'm looking for today is basically to get council's feedback on overall plans. What do you want to do this year? And to start with, of course, I start with what the environment is and what our cost pressures are. So inflation's down below under 2, but it's down because the economy is weakening. So you keep in mind that people are going to have a tougher time to actually pay more because there'll be job losses, etc. happen. You generally pay on residential, so that's going to hit quite a few people. On the business end, it'll generally be more towards the 6 point, depends on how they do the steps on the business side of things. So yeah, hydro's being, so admin, they're going to put, I heard something about our admin increase of 4% or whatever, or admin line, so we'll see where that lands, but it's going to be flat, generally considering, consider 4% as flat. TNRD increases and TNRD landfill stabilized last year, but I anticipate TNRD, nothing's public yet, but
10.61% for Ashcroft.
so that's a concern because we are having 8, 7, 8, 10%
Wow.
increases, and I see my discussions last year indicated there is a gap they're trying to fill, but it concerns me. It concerns, because we only control half the tax bill. Taxpayers should know the village only collects half of what your bill. We don't control the police, TNRD, that's the other half of the bill. That side.
But in every single EA, it's a separate budget for each month, 'cause they all have different services. So Ashcroft is 10.61% based on the figures, the assessments from this year. That equates to, the average house in Ashcroft has a median value of $400,000, $397,000. If you take what you paid per $100,000 to the TNRD last year and what you'll pay for this year and next year, it's $27 per house for the year is the increase. 10.61% is really scary, and I'm not trying to defend it or not. I'm just saying it translates to $27 for the average household in Ashcroft for the year, not per month. That's over the entire year. And I know, on the other hand, I absolutely agree. It's a lot of money. Cumulatively, it's more and more. And my argument with the TNRD is
That's a cost pressure, and
and just the other thing too, quick, is the TNRD is able to get, in November, 10.61% increase, and most municipal governments are not in a position in November to say this is what the tax increase is going to be for next year. And that's always been a bit of a beef with the TNRD, is that they get their handout first, if you will.
On a good side, I heard Metro Vancouver is increasing 25% and Vancouver is 10% as well. So people are, and I was in a meeting last week with lots of mayors and stuff presenting to Cinda, and from Osuyus, the people were there, and they had just had a 40% increase, and they were not. So got to hear some stories from people there, but.
Go ahead,
Go.
Councilmember.
I don't want to put you on the hot seat, but I'm just wondering why such a large increase, like a big increase, like a big increase.
Councilor Davenport, you have a question?
Am I right that we don't put out our increase until after our budget? That's the beginning
Yeah, that's right.
point that we're at right now?
So we're just starting the budget discussion. So
Yeah.
I'll ask you what you guys want, and that's why I'm presenting the environment, and then I'll go, okay, this is what we can do
Yeah.
if we are aiming for, say, a 3.5% increase, and this is what is possible within that. Then I get all of Brian's what is necessary, critical.
Yeah.
All of that is fine. The one which is hitting us is WorkSafe. Our rate has gone from 3.5 to 3.94, which is based on the total payrolls. My estimate is in mid-60s. It'll be there. So that's getting expensive, but so that's why we were so focused last year on safety and getting that safety. Okay, so I'll move to priorities where most of our discussions will happen. But I have the preliminary public works list on what is necessary. So of all the things which need to be replaced, etc. So that's about a 900. It includes fire smart in there. So I put all the projects. But with the cost escalation these days, I have to.
It's 80%.
80%. Sorry, that's right. I've already set aside the 20%, but I have to estimate overages.
Right.
And that challenge, that means that you're looking at a significant chunk of money if we get approved there as well. So, and then, those are not highlight, I changed the highlight on that because I wanted to have your input. So the other things which have come up is improvements to Mesa Vista Park, example, new playground equipment, or putting a new track around there, but that's an expensive endeavor. So that would be requiring a grant. But, just in case, so we've got the application, RDIP, right?
Yeah.
And last time we didn't get approved. If in case I'm putting these there, in case it doesn't get approved, are we doing something or not? Right? And you're talking a big amount here, but you're looking at within our budget maybe 30,000, 35 for small improvements, right? So I just want council's feedback, what you're thinking about parks and recreation.
I think we're gonna get that grant, and it'll be just
Yeah.
fine.
Positive thinking, yeah.
I think it should be, but I just think that would be really nice when we're trying to get people into the downtown and we're trying to keep them here. And I think that would be a really nice thing to work on, is just something that loops around from the Heritage Park, comes down around, stays by the river as much as possible. It's level, it's quiet, it's good for people of any mobility level. I just really like to see us get going on that.
Absolutely.
So would that, I'm just trying to picture it, would it be like a paved pathway?
I'm
Okay.
in my head, yes, it's paved. In my head, it's beautiful. It's getting it from my head to the ground.
Actuality.
In my head, it's paved, and it has a couple of benches along it where it's along the river particularly, and it's maybe got some little wayfinding signs along with little QR codes you can maybe scan, and that takes you to what you're looking at in terms of the foliage or the eagles on the river or whatever, ospreys. And just something that allows people to do a circuit of the downtown. People of all, whether they're in a walker, whether they're walking.
I have a preference for downtown walking track. I can put that as a critical. I have a preference for downtown walking track. I can put that as a critical priority for this year, if RDIP doesn't come through for the Heritage Park.
Is there a plan to reapply for the BC Hydro trees for Mesa Park?
Yeah.
I think we've been holding off on applying, thinking that we would include it at the same time as we do the revitalize up there.
Yeah.
Because the grant that we were approved for, we had to give back because it was just the drought conditions didn't allow us to plant.
If we don't get the REDIP grant for the Heritage Park, then I think the walking trail would be, that's definitely the buzzword. But as far as the Mesa Park goes, maybe I'm biased because I've lived up there for 28 years and I know how sad it is. No, I know that people don't see it, and I absolutely agree the Heritage Park needs to be focused on, because that is the face of Ashcroft. That's what tourists see, that's where they go to. I absolutely, I get it, but I just would love to see something done up at the Mesa Park, because it is just a little gem. And you don't want to be putting, I don't think, no, absolutely, when we're not talking about expropriating property. No, absolutely, when we're not talking about expropriating property. I mean, I think one thought was maybe you could go down Bancroft Lane, so that you're not, just something that connects up, and places where there's already paving, there could just be lines or something to just direct people.
Okay, I'm not.
I had actually visualized it. I don't know whether I have the map.
Yeah, because we walked, didn't go down and around the cemetery.
Yeah, so
along the river
we were
there,
thinking initially
on the bench.
exactly. We were thinking along the cemetery, on the one corner, or what would be, there's a lot of work to be done before Ryan says it's practical, but something which is safe for people and accessible. So not necessarily all paved, but something flattened, or that reddish gravel or whatever they do, which is not too, so that's not pulling it up, but so the idea is anything where we can go along. One of the challenges, even behind here, the village, but the disadvantage here is the traffic has really, as things have gotten busier, traffic has gotten, so that's maybe not realistic. So look around, even along the paths in town, but marked with, some facilities, making it look, letting people walk around town, get a feel for town and it serves purpose for tourism, etc. as well. Like tourists can have their QR codes and wayfinding and look at things, and people in the village can walk around.
So do we have an idea of how much this would cost? Sorry, I forgot to.
We can start in sections, right? I think if it depends what we're thinking. If you're thinking paved, it's a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
So we can see what sections we can do, what is realistic, and slowly start building it out. But then it could be it doesn't have to be a 1 year thing. It can be you add to it and make it better and keep it moving along. So that's just my thoughts around it.
Well,
Mayor, go ahead.
I just, for dreaming, we have pathways at the park at Regcon Park, and they're a normal width pathway, and it looks like asphalt, but it's not. It's a rubberized compound that they put down like an asphalt. It's kind of weird, but it would be if we're looking at active transportation grant funding, then I think our best bet is to always dream big and look at a whole complete plan so that you've got the documentation to back up the grant application. Because as soon as you start pulling it apart and going, we'll do, and we do it in-house or we do little bits and pieces ourselves, it's more challenging to write that grant application to be successful. I think if you have a whole vision and a whole plan, and you're okay, this is what we're doing, and you might want to break it into phases, that's not a problem. Okay, so stage 1 is we're going to go from here to here, and then the following year we're going to apply for the next whatever. But just my thoughts about if we're going to look at a trail project, that might be a better way to go.
Councilor Lambert, did you still have something?
I think if we got a grant, I'd be fine with it, but I'd want more information if we're paying for the whole kit and caboodle.
Councilor Lambert?
I consider it sounds like there's more information about and what we've discussed about the Mesa Park and what could be done up there, and it seems like sort of an easier priority for this year. It sounds like it's a great, I could want to see all different types of people. So I think gathering an idea of what this whole thing looks like, and I agree not doing it piece by piece, but making it a 2 to 3 year plan to actually get it done.
Okay, so what I'm getting out of it is maybe we can come up with a full plan, but RDIP is in progress, so if it doesn't happen,
trail in there, and is that okay? Do we have to put a parking lot in there? So everything we're looking to, we gotta be planning ahead, which actually starts accounting to quite a few dollars to start off with. So everything you're looking in there in the future of the park is gonna take quite a few dollars just to get it up and going and starting those phases, because we gotta work on several phases at the first beginning. Once you get the irrigation adjusted or something to put the trees or where the walking path, you can start moving towards it, but it's gonna take a few dollars.
Corner of Second and Third and Bancroft Lane, right beside Frank and Colleen Moreau's place across from Cammy's. About the size of a pocket handkerchief. World's smallest dog park, possibly. I don't know, but we own it. I mean, and that would be a perfect thing to incorporate somehow into a walking trail, because you could easily put a fence up. I mean, I know I say easily, and Brian's like, easily. It's easy for her to say, you get out there and start digging for a fence, but put a fence up and a bench, and and plant a tree, a bench, and a fence, so that no one's falling in the river. And there is a beautiful stop on our trail, and we own the land, and you could never build anything on that land.
So I'm trying to go from general to more specific. Okay, so we moving ahead with the RDIP, right? Whether that so downtown, maybe we can start working on what it looks like, planning wise, with the working group, and get to some specifics, and then we'll have a little bit more to go on. First, where it's app was approved, so that's happening, and I think Daniela can update more on that.
Yeah, I'm just working on the job description in our grant application. Our consultant wrote 2 different positions, and I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around what the job descriptions for those are and how that falls within the funding formula. And I've got, hope to be posting that before the end of next week, and we'll see what we have for applicants.
I just put this to kind of structure a discussion. So this is totally up to you guys if you want things changed, right? So the other thing is we had discussions about the fire tender replacement with TNRD. Basically, we were told they don't have any money, so we'll put up the initial funds to buy it, but then they would increase the annual remittance to us for fire protection to sort of cover it, and we get into a cycle. But pipes, which are required right from all the way down, the full drainage thing. I was intending to show you the picture, but that'll get very detailed. But basically, it's having piping throughout Ashcroft, throughout North Ashcroft, to actually convey the water. But there are things we can do now, like improving the culverting on the hydro right away on the other side where a lot of the water comes over, things like that. And Brian and I've had quite a few discussions about it over the time. How to. So it started out, if you recall, from the development which was conceived,
Right.
and the 100-year flood planning as they have to do meant the culverts were humongous, right? So we had to work through many iterations and work through with the engineers to come up with a realistic. I mean, engineers love coming up with something they can put a stamp on, but you get suggestions like a 20-foot wide ditch, and yes, it'll convey the water, but what?
Half of the yard.
Right.
That's called a culvert, not a ditch, culvert.
Well, no, this is ditches. Ditching.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know the standard is 1 in a 100-year event, and a lot of it is also to, really risk reduction on our part, because you're having flood events, and municipalities are on the hook if they're not shown to be doing things and doing things. So that process is coming to a close. So that's one side of storm drainage. The other side, and I put it under risk, is drainage. We have to do some flood mitigation, and that's extremely focused on risk. I've given them permission to do initial, grant specs, so we can get a grant for it, so they can actually do the study. So, like usual, we ask them to do the paperwork so that we can apply.
Right.
And if that comes through, we'll have UBCM has a grant for that. If we qualify for that, then we can get a drainage now. Otherwise, it's 150,000 out of our pocket, which we are not. I'm ready for 5,000. I'm not ready for 150. So that's where that is. So that relates both to storm drainage, but these are the things we are facing. We are facing with climate change and requirement to do 1 in a 100-year event, which is quite different than it used to be 10 years ago. So sewage treatment. So I'm putting that in perspective because there are a lot of capital costs. The storm drainage, actually, the piping would be anything north of 1.5 million. So just to put it in perspective, what you're talking about, and with our savings. Sewage treatment plant, finally, we're working on the grant-ready study again. So what is required to upgrade the sewage treatment plant? Brian's working with, I forget the name, Danielle and Matt. That's who I was thinking about, to get all the specifications for what is required. And that again would be yet to come. The bill is yet to come, but again, it'll be in the millions, unfortunately. So And when you're looking at these millions of dollars in capital projects, I mean, without grants, we can't proceed, but even if we get grants, we have to pay 50%.
Yeah.
A lot of times, or more sometimes. So trying to gather assets for that sort of thing. These are not things public sees very much, but this is, critical to us providing sewage and water services, right? Water reservoir upgrade is required once the land thing closes. There was some news today. Yeah. So.
Coming up.
Oh, coming up. Okay. Oh, it's in the agenda. That's right. The whole planning around what we could do, and we developed the plan with fire chief, and lots of input from engineers. We have that. We haven't been successful to get the grant for that, but that's another outstanding large capital. So it was improvement in pipes, improvement in our response to equipment. Results for roads, I put that in because we started building them from zero. So I think there's about 65 in there. I'm hoping to put some away this year. We'll see. One of the last things I was doing this year was covering the last 250,000 for the firewall. So, so I'm waiting to get the year-end results so I can actually see where we're landing, right?
Right.
And build a little bit of. So these are the big things. I mean, this discussion, I just put that, like I said, to put some structure around it. I like to hear from you guys on top of that. So.
So this whole list of things that you see, is this all stuff that hopefully you want done this year?
No.
Or, okay,
No,
in the next couple of years?
Depends on what grants we get, right?
Yeah.
We'll limp along. I mean, reservoir upgrade is fire flows there. So that is a critical item which we will apply to as soon as. We just concluded all the other projects, and I just finished lift station, fire hall, all of that, closing all of those. So we can't double dip, right? We have to close it. Now we are ready to apply for all of that. So.
Thank you. And I mean, for anyone out there watching, members of the public, because it's nice to do the fun stuff too. Because I know people don't appreciate necessarily your sewer treatment plant until they flush their toilet and stuff doesn't disappear. You really notice then when something's wrong. And I get that all these things are costly and huge and tedious and boring and, did I say costly? But it would be nice to really be able to start working on one of those fun things, because it's not only fun for residents, but it's fun for visitors as well.
Yeah.
It's forward facing.
Yeah, exactly. It's and it's very visible too. I mean, a lot of the other things, you don't see it. I mean, you complain when someone's digging up the road, but you don't see it. So, anyway, just wanted to give it over.
Just question to staff about, are most grants like these, because it's in infrastructure, that they are pretty much readily available?
Get it, but that's how we try and improve our chances of it. Yeah, the grants aren't that many, and given the state of provincial and federal finances, whether they will have
all of that backup documentation ready to go. All of that backup documentation ready to go is always in our favor.
So just a little history. So what we usually do is we talk to the engineers and we do site plans. We go over, like I'll just talk about the sewer treatment plant. So you did a visual site, you went over all of it, you did up a plan. What is it? You sat down with your operational people. What is your plans? What is the high priorities? And you put it down on a draft, and then you talk about, okay, maybe we can do this. What can we lump? So then you have our urban systems and everything draw up. Policy and a procedure to do a grant funding to have it what we call shelf ready. So if something comes out, so it takes almost a year and a half of the investigation, the input, the drawing up, and having this shelf ready, that if a grant does come up, and sometimes it might hit that mark, but sometimes it might not hit that mark due to variant, you can't apply for it. But We're also looking at sewer treatment plant, like Yogi said, $1.5–2 million, but we're also looking at it too, that if there isn't a big enough grant, how do we pull sections out of it? So, and we can apply for maybe this part here at this point in time, which is an input screen instead of
Up to 50%. So if we get $1 million in sudden funding, that immediately goes to reserves, because I'm thinking the big projects. How do I pay
Yes.
for the 50% of a $3 million reservoir,
Yes.
right? So unfortunately, those grants, what was it called? I forget the acronym for it. The $1 million we just got. It's right last year. It's in reserves. It was sudden, unexpected. So that I throw in reserve. As you guys saw in the lag, by the time the fire hall was built, it had doubled in price, right? From pre-COVID, the fire hall was built, it had doubled in price, right? From pre-COVID to post. So that inflation is quite high. So capital side of things is challenging. Yeah. So if we can get something small done, at least have one thing which is, we can manage, but not multiple things together. So we can't do, Legacy Park and Mesa Park and, community trail. We could potentially. So I'm trying to, I'll get all the information together and then maybe I can pull it together better if we can manage with the 3.5% increase. Looking good so far.
Good.
I'm not sure if it's relevant or not, but I noticed on our list, we've got one more relative.
445. That all went into deferred to be used this next year for that. So, and there's a First Nations consultation in there for 40,000 as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
and I
so-
think there's some work and courses that we have to do around that.
Did we get the money for that? Okay. I have to double check. I think I put it in reserves, but I'll double check. Okay, that's any thing from council regarding priorities. Sorry to be the pessimistic guy. I unfortunately have to focus on the realities of what we have.
And I think that the way that we do this is a lot smarter than a lot of municipalities. The fact that we have shovel-ready projects to go, so can match them when a grant comes around, as opposed to scrambling for money and scrambling to create a project. I think is probably much better for us in the long run, but also shows that we do have priorities.
And it helps if it's part of, your council's worked on it. There's working group. It's attached to the OCP. It's attached to, housing. It's attached to, that will be a big seller for the reservoir. But I'd better give council the chance before I jump into the deep Brian projects, because he takes all the money. Right?
Yes.
Always.
Always. So it's
Always.
most of it is improvement to a row culvert, backup pump, 90,000. Like his requests are never less than 50,000.
No. What's with
Sorry.
this?
You should compare his request list to my request list, and I am so much more affordable.
But Daniela's request list is Christmas lights.
I'm good with that.
I'm bah humbug.
I'm with you.
Which one has the most,
Margaret's request.
which one has the smallest number of zeros after it? Tell us.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That lets me get started. And I'll definitely include something about downtown walking trail. I'll pull up the old maps and, the trail maps. What I'd done for Matthew was there's no spacing if you look today even. There's no parking, so maybe it can't come down here. But, including it something like walking beside the cemetery, that would be a nice little section, right? And coming and joining with our park down here, right? Heritage Park. Potential, but that's a detailed discussion with working group, and then the practicality of it, Brian will give us
Little
a.
picture.
Sorry.
That's an
Old
old
picture.
picture. The recycling
Yeah, the
depot's
background
still
is
there.
old. Yeah. So things like that, right? But if we can get something which is accessible, with attention to people with disabilities, right? To then it would be, and maybe something which can, like the mayor was saying, go down to the river here. But this is pretty grungy now, right now. So, it would have been nice if it could go over here and then walk around our legacy park and come back.
It's different animals that you can see along your way, and it's all in indigenous, the local indigenous language, as well as in English, just as in placards. It was really cool.
Okay, thank you.
Should I pass my last committee of the whole meeting as mayor, because I actually am not deputy mayor meeting this
Oh,
October 30th.
Oh, that's.
oh, sorry.
But I'll
We'll
pass
go back
the
and do it all.
last-
I'll pass it.
I'll pass the
Bang the
gavel
gavel.
That's okay, I can start again.
back to,
Here's the
Please no.
email.
I'll pass the gavel back to Mayor
Next
Roden.
committee of the whole is all yours. All right.
Okay, so I just need a motion, please, to go back to regular.
May I have a motion to go back to your
I so
regular meeting?
move.
Thank you. Seconder? I'll second. Thank you, Councilor Lambert. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Now I will pass the gavel back to you.
Get my serious face on. 6.2, thank you very much for that. Zia Bala, thank you, Director Benowith, thank you, CEO Dick, and thank you for being such great stewards and managers and paying attention to all that unsexy.
That's all, Brian.
All right, CAO verbal report, property acquisition update, PARs, and new building inspection agreement. How are you?
Oh, well, so I have been following up with our Fulton and Company, Sam Dabney, our lawyer. They're with the acquisition for expansion and our ALC excluded property. And he advised this morning that he has heard back from the property owners' lawyers. Everything looks good. They're prepared to sign, so now they just have to dot all their I's and cross their T's, and the anticipated closing date is not to be any later than January 31st, 2025. And the only downside with that is that we have to yet again have approval from the ALC, which apparently I'm told is just a rubber stamp. So hopefully it's just easy peasy, and they will just, oh yes, we're familiar with this, we know, we'll stamp it approved, and away we go. So hopefully we'll finally get that off our books and finalize that. I'm sure both parties will be really happy about that. For the HARS, it was a fellow named Ian Olson from EMCR and Lara Quigley reached out and wanting to have a brief conversation about our HARS and extreme heat yet again, and because Ashcroft has been the pilot and led the way for so much on that. So I had a Teams meeting with them, and it was really interesting, and they were just really asking, how did we end up doing a HARS pilot community, and I went through the process about Health Canada and IHA and how it all kind of came about, how the program was developed, and how we operated. This is what they were really curious. How do we manage it? Like, is it a lot of work? Is it easy to implement? And we said, I kind of explained that Ashcroft's a little bit of a, in our own realm, like we are hot. We're used to hot weather. So although this is extreme, the heat that we're seeing, the principles are the same, and most people that are here kind of understand what to do in hot weather. But I did say that we send out our annual, pre-season reminders and kind of get community, make them aware again. And they were really, really interested in that. Wondered how well that worked, and I was able to share our story of one of our citizens that had suffered from heat exhaustion, and had it not been for that program and people being aware of it, there's a chance that person may not be here today.
Right.
So it does work, and they were really excited to hear about that. And I'm happy that we've shared our program many times in Word documents with other communities, and we're happy to continue to do that. So they're just writing another report and reporting back on it, and we just continue to be the poster child for HARS and heat, extreme weather, and such. So it was interesting. It was a good little brief conversation. And I think that they were really curious about why we felt it was successful, and I think it's really because our messaging is consistent. You know, we have everybody signed up on, or the bulk of the community signed up on Voyant Alert, and we're able to notify, and the messaging is so consistent that people recognize it, and it doesn't take long for new residents to recognize it, so it's good. And then lastly, I signed off on the new building inspection agreement that we talked about previously. That's all said and done. We do have an increase. I think the rate had not increased since 2002, so it's a long time. So we did see a 25% increase, which isn't outrageous. We went from 4,400 to 5,500, roughly, for the annual service, and there is a reduction in there because of the administration and that our staff does. So we're that, but we don't have the capacity to take on building inspection. That's just not that we could do. We can't afford to hire our own building inspector, so it's a service that's absolutely needed. So Tony was very pleased, Alex and Tony, and they're happy we signed off, and the council approved that a while back, but I just want to let you know that it is signed, sealed, and delivered. Okay. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for COD? Thank you very much. Good news about the property in North Ashcroft.
Yes.
I am so glad that was just a simple AOR.
Such a simple little 3-month.
Oh my goodness.
It's been going on for so many years.
All right, we have a report for information from the bylaw enforcement officer. Anyone have any questions about that?
Looks like he's been busy though.
Oops. Okay, move on to action item, Ashcroft and Area Community Resource Society, Christmas Hamper Fund request for cash donations. Councilor Lambert.
Not very organized tonight. I move that we help them out. I can't remember how we did it.
I don't. Have we given cash to the Hamper Society?
We don't normally, usually, because of course they ask us to give them use of the hall, the community hall, for, it's usually 3 or 4 days before and then the day of the delivery. So they get 4 or 5 days of free community hall use. I believe last year they did ask us for money because up until last year they would have the ability for people like Safety Mart to add another couple of dollars to your bill. They had donation boxes around town. They were also collecting food. They have stopped collecting food items because they have no place to store it.
And people give expired food, and so it takes a whole other person to go through every can and see if it's actually allowed to go in the hamper.
Yes, because if it's expired, it can't be, it has to be tossed. So I think, so they are now solely depending on funding that they get from organizations, businesses, groups in the area. So, we did have some funding left in the grant in aid from the fall intake, did we not?
I believe there was a little bit left over, yes.
It was, I'm just recalling something like $500 was left. I'm right?
Yeah, so there was some money left there. We didn't max that up.
And if we don't use it, does it roll over to the next intake in the spring of 20?
No, it does not.
No, it does not.
And I move that we donate.
I saw that gleam come into your eye.
I move that we give them $500. It's very important. They help so many people out. Like,
I'll second that so she can keep talking.
it's very important, I think. And if we can help them out, I think we should.
There were 161 or 162 hampers distributed last year.
Yeah.
The food bank here, the Fry Food Bank, has seen, which of course is completely separate for Christmas hampers.
Yes.
Esther Lang reinforces that every year, and a lot of people still don't get it. The food bank here has seen a very dramatic increase in the number of people using it. The two biggest groups that they've seen the increase in are seniors and families with young children. So she, she can't predict how many hampers, but she knows there were 161 or 2 out the door last year, and she anticipates demand will be higher this year. Purely because of the number of people using the food bank.
And groceries are more expensive.
And groceries
Yes,
are
they
more
are,
expensive.
yeah.
So, anyone else have any comments on that?
In support of it.
All right, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. All right, for information, do check out that new Canopy service, which has some awesome movies from the Criterion Collection. Almost, I think, all the Criterion Collection movies. And the Criterion Collection is,
20,000 movies.
yeah, fantastic.
Wow.
All free if you have a library card. CP, just a reminder, the holiday train is going to be here on Wednesday, the 18th of December. It's supposed to get here approximately 8:45 p.m. All times subject to change without notice. So that's exciting that they're coming back here. They started in 1999, missed 2 years because of COVID, and there was one early year where they didn't come here. They didn't stop here. They came through.
I'm sorry, what was that date? I missed it.
18th, Wednesday, the 18th of December at approximately 8:45.
Thank you.
So that's exciting. And I wondered if we could send a letter of congratulation to trustees Casper and Ranta on their election as co-chairs. And I think we should also congratulate Trustee Connor Thomas, who's the BCPC rep, and Trustee Valerie Adrian, who's the BCSTA rep as well.
Should we send a letter of congratulations to Mayor Roden on her election
That's
of the
okay.
TRD chair?
No, thank you. Yes, we're very pleased and honored, obviously, to be reelected as chair for a 3rd year. My vice chair again is Robin Smith, the mayor of Logan Lake. Awesome lady. If you've never met her, do try to, because she really is nice. And yes, looking forward to another year in that hot seat. 26 other names to remember, and they just moved everyone around. So no one is where I expect them to be, which is fun. Anything else on the information correspondence anyone wanted to mention?
So,
All right, motion tracker. Any comments on the motion tracker? No? All right, we move on to reports, recommendations, recommendations. There are none. Council reports. Anyone else have anything else to report? CFO Val.
Your Worship, I had the pleasure of getting audited by the Comptroller General of BC on one of the projects, so that was fun for a few weeks. It looks like we've gone through it without.
Presentations recently. I had a couple of my TNRD people, directors, who said how much they enjoyed it. That's the word, their words, not mine. Putting words in their mouths. Thank you, and it's great for the village of Ashcroft to get that sort of recognition, and it's a recognition of all the hard work you've done on us, I imagine. Yeah. And it's frightening how many local governments are still just starting down that road.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Oh, and the seniors seniors bazaar was very nice. Yes. I didn't win anything.
donations are always good.
All right, we have no need to move to a closed meeting, so we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.